If you carry one of these Japanese surnames, your family name may still preserve a connection to a specific clan, a specific era, and in some cases, a specific battle that changed Japan forever. 10 surnames, 10 historical worlds. And by the end of this video, you will know whether your name was shaped inside the imperial court, carried onto a battlefield, or turned into a warning by the enemies who feared of it. Stay until number 1. Because no surname on this list changed Japan more completely. Number 10. Saito. On its own, Saito looks like an ordinary Japanese surname. But its second character, the Wisteria character 2, links the name historically to branches that claimed Fujiwara descent, one of dozens that spread across Japan, each attaching a different syllable to mark which province or duty set it apart. Not every modern Saito family can prove that lineage, and one of the most famous men to carry the name may not have inherited it at all. Traditional accounts describe Saito Dosan as a former monk and oil merchant who clawed his way to power in Mino province through scheming and the forced exile of rivals, then simply adopted the name Saito from an old, defunct samurai house to give his new power the weight of old blood. Modern research suggests that rise may actually have begun with his father, making it a 2-generation ascent rather than the work of one man alone. Either way, his enemies called him the Viper of Mino. And when he needed the authority of an ancient warrior house, he did not wait to inherit its name. He took it. His son-in-law was Oda Nobunaga, married to Dosan's own daughter, an alliance struck years before Nobunaga would go on to reshape the entire country. If your surname is Saito, your family name carries both sides of samurai power, the families who inherited authority, and the men ruthless enough to seize its symbols for themselves. And the next surname shares the same ancient root. But this one became attached to a man remembered for hunting tigers. Number 9. Kato. Same Wisteria character, same Fujiwara root. The Ki is believed to mark this branch as the Fujiwara tied to Kaga province. Kato Kiyomasa was one of the 7 spears of Shizugatake, the young warriors who broke an enemy line in 1583 and made their reputations in a single afternoon. A decade later, during the invasions of Korea, legend transformed him into Tora Gari, the tiger hunter, a warrior said to have faced tigers with nothing but a spear between battles. Modern historians question whether that hunt belonged to Kiyomasa at all, or was later transferred to him from another commander. But that may be the most revealing part of the story. His reputation had become so terrifying that later generations needed an animal powerful enough to contain it. Kiyomasa also rebuilt Kumamoto Castle into one of Japan's great fortresses, and when his patron Hideyoshi died and the country split in 2, he sided with the man who would go on to found the next great shogunate. If your surname is Kato, your family name is connected to a warrior whose history became inseparable from legend, and whose legend required a tiger. The next name completes a pattern you may already be noticing. Number 8. Ito. Wait. Saito. Kato. Ito. 3 names in a row, all ending in that same Wisteria character. This is not a coincidence, and by now it should not feel like one. Ito comes from a branch historically associated with Izu province and that same Fujiwara wisteria character. But one family carrying the name became trapped inside one of the most personal tragedies of early samurai history. Ito Tsukachika was ordered to watch a young political exile named Minamoto no Yoritomo on behalf of the ruling Taira clan. While Tsukachika was away, Yoritomo fell in love with his daughter. They had a child. When Tsukachika discovered the relationship, he tore the family apart rather than risk the Taira's wrath. Yoritomo escaped. Years later, that same exile returned at the head of a rebellion. Tsukachika defeated him at the Battle of Ishibashiyama in 1180, but he could not stop what came next. Yoritomo survived, overthrew the Taira, and became the founder of Japan's first shogunate. Tsukachika took his own life rather than live beneath the rule of the man he had once held prisoner. The Fujiwara clan did not just dominate the imperial court for 3 centuries. It fractured into so many branches, spread across so much of Japan, that an enormous share of common Japanese surnames today carry a hidden piece of it, preserved inside a single kanji, whose historical connection most people rarely stop to consider. If your surname is Ito, your family name is connected to a story in which one household tried to destroy a powerless exile, only to watch that exile return and remake Japan. Number 7. Sato. The next name is the biggest proof of that pattern there is. This is the moment the pattern pays off completely. Sato is the most common surname in Japan. Roughly 2 million people, about 1 in every 70 Japanese citizens, carry it today. That familiarity hides what the name preserves. One widely cited tradition connects Sato to descendants of Fujiwara no Hidesato, a Heian period military commander associated with the town of Sano, while other explanations connect its first character to a different office or regional title. The details differ. The final character does not. 2. Wisteria, the recurring marker associated with Fujiwara branch names. The most common surname in modern Japan may still be carrying a fragment of the most powerful court family in its history. One widely reported demographic projection even suggested that if Japan's law requiring married couples to share a surname is never repealed, a growing share of the country could eventually carry the name Sato. If your surname is Sato, your name did not need to stay rare to preserve its history. It survived by becoming almost impossible to escape. Before we go further, if you want more histories hidden inside ordinary family names, subscribe to Surname Ledger. Every week, another surname gets pulled back into the world that created it. 6 names remain. Until now, one hidden wisteria character connected the list. From this point forward, the names belong to imperial descendants, demon slayers, rival warlords, a clan that ended its own world, and a betrayed unifier before the family that finally ended the war. Number 6. Watanabe. This name changes the character of this list. Every name before this one traced back to a clan that served the imperial court from the outside. Watanabe traces its origin to the imperial line itself. The clan was founded by Watanabe no Tsuna, born in 953, a traditional descendant of Emperor Saga through the Minamoto line, and himself a trusted retainer of the warrior Minamoto no Yorimitsu. According to legend, Tsuna rode through Kyoto at night when something attacked him near the Rashomon Gate. It was not described as a man. It was described as a demon. Tsuna drew his sword and cut off its arm before it could drag him away. Whether read as history, folklore, or something between the two, the story survived because it captured exactly what the name had come to represent: a warrior standing where everyone else was afraid to stand. The clan he founded went on to build a powerful navy based near Osaka, and Watanabe is the fifth most common surname in Japan today. Over 1 million people. It is a record, not a verdict. But if your surname is Watanabe, the legend behind your family name does not place its warrior safely behind a castle wall. It places him alone at a gate, in the dark, between a city and the thing hunting it. The next name belonged to a warlord who chose honor over an easy war. Number 5. Uesugi. This is where the list stops being about court politics and starts being about war. Uesugi Kenshin had every reason to let a shortage destroy his rival. He had fought Takeda Shingen 5 times. Their armies had killed one another across the fields of Kawanakajima. Starvation could have achieved what years of battle had failed to do. According to the story that defined their rivalry, Kenshin refused. He allowed salt to keep reaching Takeda territory, insisting that wars should be fought with swords and spears, not with hunger. The exact details remain part of tradition. The reputation it created does not. It is a record, not a verdict. But if your surname is Uesugi, your family name is connected to a warlord remembered not only for the enemies he fought, but for the victory he refused to take. The next name did not just survive the fall of the samurai age, it caused it. Number 4. Shimazu. For nearly 700 years, the Shimazu survived by mastering the feudal system. Then they helped destroy it. In the 19th century, daimyo Shimazu Nariakira built one of the country's first Western-style factory complexes, cast modern cannon, and transformed Satsuma into one of the strongest domains in Japan. That strength later helped Satsuma lead the rebellion that overthrew the Tokugawa shogunate and restored imperial rule in 1868, an event known as the Meiji Restoration. The clan had spent centuries perfecting the world of the samurai. Then its own power helped make that world impossible to preserve. If your surname is Shimazu, your family name is connected to the clan that survived the samurai age longer than almost anyone, and then helped write its final chapter. The next name needs little introduction. Few names from Japan's age of civil war carry more weight than this one. Number 3. Oda. Few names from Japan's age of civil war carry more weight than this one. Oda Nobunaga began the impossible task of unifying a country that had been tearing itself apart for a century, crushing rival after rival with ruthless, often brutal efficiency, and some of the earliest large-scale use of firearms in Japanese warfare. He came closer than anyone before him to finishing the job. Then, on the morning of June 21st, 1582, one of his own most trusted generals, Akechi Mitsuhide, turned an army that was supposed to march to Nobunaga's aid and marched it into Kyoto instead. Nobunaga was resting at Honno-ji temple with only a small guard. He reached for a bow, then a spear. Outside, the temple was surrounded. Then it began to burn. With no path left open, Nobunaga withdrew into the building and took his own life. His enemies searched the ashes. They never found his body. Mitsuhide ruled Kyoto for exactly 12 days before one of Nobunaga's own vassals, Hashiba Hideyoshi, crushed him in battle and avenged his lord. If your surname is Oda, your family name is connected to the warlord who came closer than anyone before him to reunifying Japan, only to lose his victory, his life, and even his body to betrayal. The next name is remembered as the one warlord other warlords feared to fight. Number 2, Takeda. Even among Japan's legendary warlords, Takeda Shingen stood apart. He commanded an army remembered above all for the speed and force of its mounted warriors, and he rode into battle under a banner bearing 4 words from an ancient Chinese military text: swift as the wind, silent as the forest, fierce as fire, immovable as the mountain. His decades-long rivalry with Uesugi Kenshin produced 5 clashes at Kawanakajima that neither man ever fully won, each side reportedly holding the other in genuine respect despite the bloodshed. Shingen died in 1573 before he could complete his own march on the capital. His son inherited the name, the banners, and the army, but not his father's authority. Within a decade, the main Takeda line was destroyed by the forces of Oda Nobunaga. The army other warlords feared did not disappear because its reputation had been exaggerated. It disappeared because the one man capable of holding it together was gone. If your surname is Takeda, your family name is connected to a military reputation so powerful that the clan's destruction could not destroy the fear attached to it. And the last name did not just fight in Japan's civil war. He ended it. Number 1, Tokugawa. No name belongs at number 1 more than this one. Tokugawa Ieyasu spent decades surviving a country at war with itself, outlasting Oda Nobunaga and outlasting Nobunaga's successor, Toyotomi Hideyoshi. On the morning of October 21st, 1600, roughly 160,000 armed men faced each other across a narrow valley covered in fog. One side followed Ieyasu. The other existed to stop him. For hours, neither army could break the other. Above them, Kobayakawa Hideaki waited on a mountainside with 15,000 men. He had promised support to Ieyasu, but refused to move. According to the traditional account, Ieyasu ordered his gunners to fire toward Hideaki's position. Historians still debate whether that volley occurred. What happened next is not disputed. Hideaki charged downhill into the flank of his former allies. The coalition collapsed. By sunset, the battle for Japan had become a decision about who would rule it. 3 years later, Ieyasu founded the Tokugawa shogunate. What followed was not another generation of civil war. It was nearly 250 years of stability, lasting until the very shogunate Shimazu helped bring down in 1868. The Tokugawa name itself was kept so exclusive that even close relatives of the ruling line were required to use the older family name, Matsudaira, instead. Tokugawa is today one of the rarest surnames on this entire list, held by barely more than 1,000 people in all of Japan. If your surname is Tokugawa, your family name is connected to the man who did what every warlord before him had failed to do. He survived them. he defeated their heirs. And then he built a system strong enough to outlive him by centuries. 10 surnames, 10 paths through the courts, castles, battlefields, and rival houses that shaped Japan. Saito and Kato, names tied to an ancient Fujiwara pattern, but remembered through men who turned authority into legend. Ito and Sato, ordinary names that still preserve fragments of a court family that once ruled from behind the throne. Watanabe, connected by tradition to an imperial line and remembered through the warrior who faced a demon at the gate. Uesugi and Takeda, rivals whose names became symbols of honor, discipline, and war. Shimazu, the clan that helped end the very system that had sustained it. Oda, betrayed before he could finish unifying Japan. And Tokugawa, the name connected to the man who finished what the others began. These are not just surnames. They are fragments of a world that no longer exists. A court ruled from behind a curtain. Warriors who turned their names into warnings. Clans that rose, fought, betrayed one another, and disappeared. The castles are gone. The banners have fallen. The armies vanished centuries ago. The names survived. Drop your Japanese surname in the comments, and I will tell you which historical world it is connected to. And subscribe to Surname Ledger for the next clan history decoded, because your name's record is not finished, it is only the beginning.